The chairman was opining a few moments ago that the debate today had been focused on gas and high gas prices, and that somehow her bill was going to push gas prices even higher. That may happen. I don't know that. What I do know today is that the American consumer is fed up with $4 gas, and anything we do that would even risk pushing gas prices higher ought to make the American consumer mighty unhappy. So I will say to the chairman tonight, I'm not going to talk gas prices. I'm going to talk something different, because I'm convinced, based on my time in the Environment and Public Works Committee and having crafted a bill that got hearings, got a markup, and was ready to come to the floor when the chairman's staff took it, turned it inside out, and brought it back to the floor in an unheard document, I was convinced then gas prices were going to go up. And I think my colleagues this afternoon, who've spoken openly in opposition to this bill, have strongly made the case that the American consumer is going to pay mightily for this bill that is before us, if in fact it becomes law. So I'm a bit puzzled when I hear the title of Climate Security Act. I'm confident that this might protect the environment, but what does it do for people? What does it do for the consumer who's going to be put through a financial wringer, not only in their home heating bill, but continually at the gas pump, if the chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee, Senator Boxer, has her way? Why don't we call this bill the China-India Economic Stimulus Act of 2008? Because clearly those countries who are rapidly becoming the largest emitters of greenhouse gas are going to be allowed to run free in the world economy while we put the clamps on our economy. Now that's a reality that we all know and that the American consumer has already reacted to. So fewer jobs in our country, more jobs in China. Does that make economic sense at a time when our economy is struggling? We're just going to stick another hole in our economy and send those jobs to India or China? Or maybe we could call this the U.S. Recessions Act of 2008. I've said it. I believe it. I've been in this Congress 28 years. I have never seen a piece of legislation to equal this one. It is the largest single redistribution of wealth in our country ever tried by the human mind through the public policy process. To me, that is frightening. Frightening for my grandchildren and their future, frightening for the Idaho economy, frightening for the U.S. economy. And what are we going to do about it? We're going to stand here and say, but it saves the world. Now, I'm not going to argue that the world isn't worth saving, because I want to spend a few more years in it. But I want to make darn sure that the world in which I live and my children live is a world that is at least as good as the one we've got today, from a standpoint of the environment and from a standpoint of the economy and the economic opportunities that come from that economy for my children and my grandchildren. So, is this micromanagement like I described it? Well, you just heard the Senator from New Hampshire begin to worry about $100 billion here and $100 billion there and $100 billion over here, and the Senator from Virginia says, well, but we got to have some money. Yes, we do. But we're talking trillions of dollars, folks. That's $6.7 trillion. And last I calculated it, that's a lot of money. And it's going to be taken from the pockets of the American consumer, passed through government, and handed out in a variety of ways yet to be determined by the bureaucracy. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about the economy of this bill. When we were marking up another bill that never made it to the floor, I wanted to talk about substantive efforts like sequestration and revitalizing the American landscape in a way where we truly could take carbon out of the atmosphere and pull it into plants and put it in roots and put it in tree stumps and tree stems in a way that was true, vital, positive, environmental sequestration of carbon. And I was told, no, you couldn't do that. Oh, no, no, no. The chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee said, no, can't do that, won't allow that kind of an amendment. We're not going to have forestry in this bill. You bring your amendments to the floor, Senator Craig. And that was the way the bill was crafted. And all of a sudden we get to the floor, and guess what's in the bill? A 10% carbon credit for companies who invest in foreign forests. Not U.S. forests, not the Payette National Forest in Idaho, or the San Bernardino Forest in California where 60% of it is dead and dying. No, 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 can't do that. It's got to go to the Brazilian rainforest. And I'm not going to debate rainforest politics tonight, but I will tell you, if we're going to tax the American people to improve the forested landscape of America, then by darn we ought to invest it in our landscape and not in Brazil's landscape or China's landscape. But that's what this bill does. And so with that in mind, let me talk about forestry and forestry sequestration and what happens when you have a young, vital, growing forest across America and its ability to pull carbon down out of the atmosphere and store it in tree trunks, not just for a year or two or three, but hundreds of years. It is the single greatest form of sequestering carbon from the environment that man never thought about because Mother Nature was well ahead of the game before we came along and began to mess up the environment. And yet this bill does nothing about it. Well, the reason I get a little excited about this idea was the year 2000 in Belgium at a climate change conference. It was the last year of the Clinton administration, and they were trying to give away our forest credits to the world to try to convince them that we believed in Kyoto. I stayed up 24 hours straight to stop them from giving away our ability to use our forests to sequester carbon out of the atmosphere into foliage and trees. And I won, and they lost. And now the world has changed, and we can measure the reality of forest sequestration, and we're not allowed to do it in a comprehensive way. That's where we are in this debate. Now, fast forward with me, if you will, to where we are in the health of America's forests today.